everyone is so consumed with thinking about what everyone else is thinking about them. But if you think about it, they're so busy thinking about themselves, they're not thinking about you. So what is the point of wondering what everyone's thinking about you? Because they're not.
When you think about the fact that you're thinking of yourself most of the time, that person's thinking of themselves most of the time. Like they're too consumed to really care, you know? And it honestly is so freeing. Like that means that you can kind of do whatever you want because they're not focused enough on you to really care. And if they're judging you, I always like to say it's a projection of their own insecurity, anyways. I would love to hear about what you've learned about overcoming perfectionism. So you speak to how we can get stuck in this quote perfect trap. How can expressing imperfections actually boost connection and actually be a lot better for all of us?
That is a great question, Camille. So expressing imperfections is important because you're human. You're not perfect. And if you're trying to be perfect, people are going to feel that and it's going to subconsciously repel them. And that is especially important today with all the AI creators and AI being able to create content and stories in seconds. And we're trying to compete with that. But what makes us stand out against AI is our imperfection. It makes us relatable. And so moving forward in the future, in the business space, in the content space, show up imperfect, perfect your confidence and your storytelling skills, and let people relate to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But I think it's also so much easier said than done, right? Especially when we're initially showing up, let's say on social media. We
Mhm.
feel like we have to be perfect because it's a really vulnerable thing to put ourselves out there like that, right? And when we're showing up, quote, imperfectly or kind of like messily and authentically, it's even more uncomfortable because we're like, oh my gosh, everyone can see my flaws. Like, oh my gosh, I had a pimple in that video, or oh, I stuttered on that word. Like people are gonna like comment rude things or laugh at me or like unfollow me. And so I think, especially on social media, we do feel this pressure to be perfect. But it's interesting that you look at the creators who are most successful in any space, and it's the people who are most authentic, I find. And I would think yourself is included because even in one of your videos, you share like, guess how many times I had to record this video. You had to make that video so many times, but you're expressing that authentically to make people feel less alone and coming across as more relatable to say like, I'm not perfect, nobody is perfect. So if you feel imperfect, you are not alone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that feeling that way ever goes away. It's just about gaining the tool to deal with being imperfect and accepting that you are human. And I think the reason it's a bit scary to show up online in that way to create the perfect picture is because it has this idea that it's going to be there forever. It's not like if I go up on a stage and I give a speech and I fumble my words, people are going to forget that in 30 seconds. But if I fumble in a video and it's on the internet, it has this forever thing, which puts the pressure of I have to be perfect. Um, but you don't. And yeah, I like to bring to the table that, hey, I'm not perfect. I film things 1,000 times sometimes, and I mess up my words. I forget what to say, but that's what you're going to relate to. If I'm too perfect, then I'm too far away from you and you're not going to connect with me. And the whole reason for social media is to connect in this digital era.
What's been the biggest lesson or thing that's encouraged you to show up more imperfectly? If you started out, let's say, feeling that pressure to be perfect in the beginning.
I think for me, it comes a little bit from my personal background. I've always felt like the black sheep of my family. I have a pretty big extended family and we're all close, and it was always like I was in competition with my cousins. Not the cousins themselves, but from the adults. And so because I didn't walk like them, talk like them, or put out symptoms of the perfect child like them, I just had accepted like, hey, I'm different and I'm going to own this. And somehow it unfolded into me not really caring what other people think. And I know it's easier said than done to say, just like, don't give a crap what this person is thinking about you. But I promise you, it leads to such inner freedom that I get people coming to me saying, like, I wish I could live your life. I'm living vicariously through you. And My answer is always like, I'm not special. You can live this life. You just have to drop your limitations, and everything is in the mind. We create our realities from our beliefs, our behaviors, and you can have the dream life that you want. You just have to let go of the outside noise.
How can we do that? Like, how can we let go of what other people think of us?
Wow. That's not, I can't give you the answers in this short podcast, but there are ways. And the first would be to discover within yourself, why do I care about that? And what is the worst thing that's going to happen if that comes true? What is my worst case scenario? And often you'll find if you just keep asking why, you'll find that actually it's ridiculous. And I'm not going to die if Aunt Jenny thinks I look silly in this video I posted online.
Do you have an
Uh,
Aunt Jenny?
I do not, but I don't know why Jenny came to my mind.
That's hilarious. We all
Never.
have an Aunt Jenny somewhere. I think there's so much truth to that. Our brain literally goes to the worst possible case scenario in anything,
Mhm.
right? So like, that friend's gonna drop me if I don't go to that social plan, or I'm gonna be homeless on the street if I quit this job that is financially sustaining my life, or I'm gonna be shunned from society if I start posting on social media and people are gonna laugh at me and make fun of me, or I'm gonna die. Like, literally, none of this will actually happen. And I think that's such a great first step to actually take a step back from not worrying so much, being so consumed about what other people think, is actually asking, like, is there any truth to that fear that I'm replaying in my head? And just
Yeah.
having that awareness of what is causing us to care so much about what they think. And then asking, like, is there any truth to that? And then we can start to slowly unravel maybe that habit of constantly just letting it consume us all the time. Because I genuinely think from personal experience and from just talking to people I've interviewed, and everyone is so consumed by what other people think of them,
Hmm.
until going through this process of really becoming aware of it and really trying to unlearn that habit and tendency.
What you described is actually there's a phenomenon called the spotlight effect. And it kind of, you gave it away in the answer itself. It's like everyone is so consumed with thinking about what everyone else is thinking about them. But if you think about it, they're so busy thinking about themselves, they're not thinking about you. So, what is the point of wondering what everyone's thinking about you? Because they're not. And also, to backtrack a bit to the first thing you said, yeah, we do jump to the negative conclusion. And it's because we're human and we're wired for a negative bias just because of human evolution, right? Like if you were in the jungle back in the day when we lived in caves and you heard a little shh, and you think a lion is coming to get you, yeah, you have to think the worst. But today, when you hear a little, you're, I'm sitting behind a screen right now. There is no lion gonna jump out and bite me. So we also have to consider the aspect of our humanness and realize that we create our own blocks when we care about judgment from outside.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's almost like we're creating problems out of thin air because we're not
Mhm.
running from the lion. So, like, let's run from what my manager thinks of me, or let's run from, what that person might comment on my video, when it's really just making life a lot heavier and harder than it needs to be. I
Yeah.
love the spotlight effect also. It's one of my favorite phenomenons. And anytime I find myself a little bit too consumed in worrying about their opinion of me, whoever they are, Aunt Jenny, worrying about what Aunt Jenny thinks of me, I literally just pause and I'm like, they are far too consumed in their own life. Not because that person's selfish, but every single one of us is the center of our own lives.
Hmm.
And when you think about the fact that you're thinking of yourself most of the time, that person's thinking of themselves most of the time. Like, they're too consumed to really care. And it honestly is so freeing. Like, it's a little bit of an isolating experience because we're like, oh, do they not actually care about me? But like, that means that you can kind of do whatever you want because they're not focused enough on you to really care. And if they're judging you, I always like to say it's a projection of their own insecurity, anyways.
Yes, exactly. They're just mirroring their own insecurities to you. Yeah, I love that.
So, you spoke a little bit already to your background and how you grew up in a diverse background. And with your household, you definitely felt pressure to go into engineering, and you started out on this corporate path. Can you share
Mhm.
a little bit more about your upbringing, what it taught you, and leaving engineering to do the beautiful work that you're doing now?
Yeah. So I'm a third culture kid. It means I am Indian by ethnicity, but I was born in the US and I grew up in Africa, in Zambia. So I kind of have three cultural backgrounds, which made me a little bit confused about my identity growing up. And I guess that feeds into the whole black sheep narrative that I have. But I think it's been a blessing because I get to look at different people and cultures and just see beauty. And I find my place in all of them. And yeah, I do have this Indian ethnicity. So I don't know if you know about cultural pressure. You have to either be doctor, engineer, lawyer, something smart because they want security and the best for you, which I understand it's a different generation. But because of that, I ended up studying structural engineering and I went the corporate route down that path, only to find that it was not for me. And it was hard at first because I am this very happy go lucky person and I brought that energy to the workspace. And so I didn't really hate my job, but I didn't love it. So when I decided to leave, it was only because I was noticing that I looked ahead at the people who were ten years ahead of me and I saw that I don't want to be there in 10 years. I don't want to be there in 5 years and I don't want to be there in 1 year. So what am I doing? And then I fell into what I called my quarter life crisis. And I just went home. I said, I'm not doing this. I'm going home. And then I went on to exploring, what do I want to bring to the world? What am I good at and what can I help people with? And I somehow ended up creating content. And that was around the time I fell into personal development. And when I started creating content, it was for the person I was in my younger 20s. And I thought, what did that version of me need to hear? And what if there are people out there who need to hear that too? And if my message could help just one person, then isn't that amazing? And the internet gives us this access to literally the whole world. It's so beautiful. And I thought, why not? I have nothing to lose. And just to touch on our earlier subjects, when I first started doing it, I had all these thoughts in my head. What is Aunt Jenny thinking of me right now? What are these people from my hometown thinking of me? Like, oh, look at her. She quit her job and now she's posting videos on the internet. Ha ha ha. Just like all these thoughts of judgment that actually don't matter. Because what I realized was that if they wanted to show up online, they would, but they're holding back out of fear. I don't know how I got to this point, but
Thank you for sharing that journey. I relate to a lot of that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can as well. This feeling that we're pressured into the corporate world, into that certain stable lifestyle, especially if
Mhm,
we grew up with parents who pushed that and did that as well. I went into a similar route, but for accounting. So I was in the accounting finance world for 4 years. And similar to you, I think I literally had a quarter life crisis. And that's what led me to starting to write in a blog. And then that transformed into the podcast, into creating content and doing what we're doing now. And I do think it's just important to hear more and more stories like that because I think so many people can resonate to that. But as you mentioned, it's really scary to take that step because A, of the judgment that you might receive. I think that's the biggest fear and biggest thing holding people back. And then B, the lack of security and the uncertainty, right? Like we don't know what that path might look like. But what we
mhm,
do know, what we can be sure of, is we might not be happy where we are currently. So isn't that uncertainty better than staying where we are in that certainty that's making us unhappy? At least that was the thought that led me to change. And I truly feel so much lighter and more fulfilled from taking the steps away from that stable life fitting in that box that society pushes that was really not making me happy. And
mhm.
I give you such kudos for taking steps away as well, especially coming from your background where your parents were literally like, you have three choices in life, take your pick. And now you're doing something totally different. But like you said, you are doing something that you're helping inspire others, like you're making a positive impact. And it is so much more aligned with who you are. And now, what a cool feeling that so many people turn to you and say, I wish I had your life. Like, I look at what you're doing and I live vicariously. But it's because you pushed through that discomfort and that judgment you received in the beginning.
Yeah, you're right. And it is about pushing through the judgment because I promise you what's on the other side of that is fulfillment. And I guess to the audience, would you rather look back and wonder, I wish I did it? Or would you rather try and fail and explore and maybe it will suck? And then you can always go back to the safe life if it doesn't feel good for you, but at least you would have known.
100%. I literally thought of this yesterday because my mom says this quote sometimes. Whenever you're making a decision, literally ask yourself, would I regret not doing it? And if the answer is yes, then you should do it. Like that's literally your answer. It doesn't matter how scary it seems. It doesn't matter what that means you have to go do now. If you're going to look back and regret not doing it, that is worst case scenario. So you need to go do it, and it can be for anything small or anything big. Like, should I go to that dinner tonight? Would I regret not going? Or should I quit my job and move and start my business? Like it can be a very small thing or a very big thing, but it's an easy way, maybe not easy. It's a simple way to put things into perspective and put ourselves into that perspective of our future selves and ask, would I regret not going for it? Or would I regret going for it? And then maybe see where you are, either one.
Yeah, your mom sounds like a very wise woman. I love that advice.
She is. So, switching topics here, in your content, you focus a lot on helping people feel more confident. Can you tell us about where confidence is actually built, specifically a bit of the neuroscience behind celebrating small wins?
Yeah, so confidence, everybody thinks confidence comes from doing big things, but that is such a myth. Confidence comes from doing the tiny actions, and it is proven that our brain develops new neural pathways when we can give ourselves credit for the small things we do every day. Like, even if it starts with, I drank enough water today, good job, me, pat on the back. You have to start small and your confidence will build over time. If you want to feel confident about the big things, start with the small things.
I really like that. If you want to feel confident about the big things, start with the small things. I think there's so much truth to that. And I think of this idea of like building blocks. Like if we start to stack all those small things every day that help
Mhm.
boost our confidence, that will lead to a much grander sense of confidence and giving us that confidence to take those bigger steps, maybe lead to those bigger things. But starting small, I think that's not only does it make it less intimidating to take that journey by just taking one step at a time and looking at the small things, but it also just means that we could start to feel confident now because of the small things that we're already doing.
Yeah, 100%. And a way that we almost break our confidence is by doing exactly the opposite. We compare our step 1 to somebody's step 100. And that is for sure not helping your confidence. You are going to feel so far away from the goal that you might just think, why should I even try right now? So,
How can a lack of confidence or self worth impact the opportunities that we're attracting in our life?
a lack of confidence and self worth can block the opportunities that we have coming our way because we end up feeling like we're not good enough for them. And so we're not able to see them. Every day we have thousands of opportunities in front of us. But if you don't have the awareness that you are worthy of that thing, you're not going to see it as an opportunity. And that's just one of the ways that we can sabotage ourselves. And also our brain, our mind, we create our reality from our thought patterns, our habits, and we end up doing ourselves an injustice by thinking that we can't do something because we don't have confidence or self-worth in that thing. We play small, if that's a better way to say it, but why not shoot for the moon and reach the stars instead of just, playing on the ground?
Did you feel like in the beginning it was hard to channel that confidence and self worth when, let's say, you were leaving engineering and starting your content creation journey, starting the journey of being a speaker and inspiring others? Did you find it hard to feel confident, especially maybe being your own biggest supporter?
Yes. I did find it difficult to be confident because I am guilty of comparing my step 1 to everyone's step 100, and I still am guilty of doing that. I still get nervous. I still see people ahead of me, people who I admire, and I wonder, why am I not there yet? But that's normal. We all feel this way. We're all human. I'm not saying that the people ahead of me don't feel this or don't feel imposter syndrome. It's actually about having the tools to deal with that. How can I deal with my fears and anxieties and realize that actually I am bigger than this? I am better than this. And really, I just have to focus on the one step ahead of me instead of the 10 places I need to get to believe in myself. What's the one thing I can do to believe in myself now that will make me feel better?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's like, what is in my control right now, today? Like, what action can I take today? And how can I redirect my focus from their path, being at step 100, to my step 1, to come back to my step 1? In my life recently, I'm practicing more and more this idea of reminding myself that I'm human. Like these thoughts of comparison and self criticism, you name it, they will always come up in every single one of us. None of us are free of that burden of comparison. None of us are free of ever feeling self doubt. We all experience these things, but I'm practicing reminding myself that it just means we're human. And
Yeah.
it's not about preventing these thoughts and feelings from ever coming up. But as you said, which I loved so much, it's about how can we work through them and navigate them? How can we use the tools in our toolbox to remind ourselves, oh, that's like really unhelpful that I'm comparing my step 1 to their step 100. Reminding ourselves and giving ourselves grace that these are normal thoughts and human feelings that are coming up, but we don't have to give them validity and weight over us and
Mhm.
simply just like kind of redirect. Like when they come, it doesn't have to mean that we have to cling to them so tightly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a critical thing you said. I like that. How can we redirect? And it just kind of also gives you this aspect of control because we are in control of our thoughts and our beliefs and what we do next. And momentum works the same forwards or backwards. So you can choose to rewire and redirect in a positive direction to create positive momentum and believe like, yeah, I'm freaking amazing. I know I'm scared right now, but I'm still freaking amazing. Or you can go the opposite way and think I suck, woe is me. And then, you dig your grave deeper and deeper in backwards direction. It's up to you. So if you had the choice, why would you not pick forward?
I think that's such an important reminder because I do feel that a lot of people feel stuck in that victim mentality, right? Like, oh, I couldn't do that because XYZ, or, if only this were in place or if only this didn't happen, then my life would be different. What does that get you? Like, how does that serve you? Like you
Mhm.
said, all it's doing is kind of digging that grave a little bit deeper. It's keeping you a little bit more stuck in that quicksand that you might already find yourself in. But we can choose to shift the narrative in our mind. And actually,
Mhm.
this brings me to another thing I wanted to talk about with you, which is resistance. You speak a lot to this idea of resistance. And a specific quote that you say is resistance doesn't change our reality. It just makes us feel anxious, frustrated, and stuck.
Yeah.
100% true. How can letting go of this resistance open so many doors and new perspectives in our lives?
So resistance shows up because of fear. We're scared of what's on the other side of that resistance. But actually, what we want, our goals and our dreams and the greatness, it's on the other side of the resistance. And it's not that it doesn't exist, because I mean, I still feel it when I have to film my videos or write my scripts. I really am still battling with fighting that resistance. But I know as soon as I've done it, I feel so good. And it didn't even take me as long as I thought it was going to take. It took me longer to fight the resistance than to actually do the thing. So, resistance is just another evolutionary trait that brings up fears and anxieties. It's because it's something new. We've never done it before, or it's different. But that's where our faith has to be stronger. Our faith in uncertainty and trust in what's coming and what we're doing and what we want for our life. Yeah.
I really love what you said in that we feel resistance because we've just never done it. It's literally just a fear. And when I had BC Cerna on the podcast, who I know is a mutual friend for you as well, he shared this idea that our fear is literally an illusion.
Mhm.
And if you feel fear or resistance towards something, that's exactly where you should go towards. So, like you said,
Yeah.
you often feel resistance in creating your content sometimes. And it's because like you're continuing to put yourself out there. And that's the direction you should continue to go towards. It's like a positive fear because you know that you're taking these big steps towards this uncertainty. And you know that on the other side is your greater goals and dreams. And you're feeling that resistance because you're putting yourself out there to do so. And I 100% feel that too. Sometimes when I sit down to record, I will feel that resistance. I will feel that pressure to like show up perfectly, and it can be uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean that I just put my equipment away and like go curl up in bed and just put on a movie. Like, no, I do it anyways. And after I do that and push through the resistance, I always actually feel more confident and more proud
Yeah.
of myself. So I think there's also something to be said about when you lean into that resistance and do the thing anyways, it actually builds our confidence in a huge way.
It does. You're so right. And that's again tied to the little action, right? Like I just had to do this one step today. I just had to record this one podcast today, not 1,000, just the one. And
Mhm.
I'm going to feel good about it brick by brick, day by day. And you build your confidence by doing the small thing, facing the small resistance.
100%. Radha, I have one more question for you to leave our listeners with. If someone feels trapped by the should narrative, right? Like, I should stay in this, I should do that, I should continue down this path, and maybe not feeling happy in it, what message would you send them today?
Oh, that's a good question, Camille.
Gotta end with a good one.
Yeah, I would have them look at where that should is coming from. Often the should comes from feeling responsible to someone else. And when you can release that, you get to show up authentically rather than this false persona that you're trying to please other people and do this thing for someone else because you think, well, I don't know what you might think. It could be a number of things, but when you show up in that should, you're kind of blocking yourself. You're not letting yourself be this force of magnetic, beautiful energy that you could be. And I would encourage them to look at who they're living life for. And I know it's not so black and white sometimes. We have responsibilities, but imagine how you'd be able to show up for the other people in your life, the people you might be feeling responsible for, if you were showing up as the happy, authentic version of you who were fulfilled.
I loved that so much. What a beautiful end to this amazing conversation. Everyone listening, you're going to love Radha's content. She provides daily inspiration that I already feel so inspired by. I will link her platform in the bio.
Thanks, Camille. This was awesome.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening for more realistic and relatable shifts to live a more fulfilling life. And I'll see you all again soon.